The class of 2022 will feature one of the most intriguing prospect battles of recent memory in the battle for Quinn Ewers that will ultimately come down to Ohio State and Texas, and we have got to get into it. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. So hop down into the comments and give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe that Quinn Ewers will stick to his commitment for Ohio State, or do you think that Texas and Steve Sarkeesian can flip him? I'm super interested to see what y'all are thinking. And guys, as always, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I do constant college football content, whether it's film reviews, player analysis, or talk videos like this, and I'm on my grind to 2,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you along. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and comment down below, because likes and comments go a long ways in helping channels like mine get picked up by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's hop straight into it because we have a lot to talk about. Quinn Ewers is currently committed to the Ohio State Buckeyes, and it's important to note that the #1 prospect in the nation per 24/7 Sports was once committed to Tom Herman's Texas Longhorns. Now, obviously, a lot has happened to Texas since that time. Tom Herman and staff are no longer there, and that staff has been replaced by Steve Sarkeesian and one of the better, on paper, recruiting staffs in the nation. And look, let's be honest, the University of Texas has a budget that rivals any other institution in the nation, so when you put together a recruiting staff on paper that good with the resources of a University of Texas and a program that is also considered one of the blue bloods, you have what you could expect to see pretty instant gains in recruiting. Now, I'm not saying that Texas will go to a top 3 class overnight, but I am contending that it's a much sexier offer now from Texas. But alas, Quinn Ewers is still committed to Ohio State. Now, he will be going into his senior year in a year where Ohio State is just adding on to the talent they have. Finishing with the #2 class overall, it's nothing for them to feel bad about. Any other class in the nation is just over the moon that they finish with a top 5 class in the nation. But the battle between Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama in this recruiting war right now is a thing of art with how these schools are going out on the trail and just outworking everybody. The Ohio State Buckeyes already have an embarrassment of riches at the quarterback position. This year, losing Justin Fields to the NFL draft, he will be replaced by who I believe to be C.J. Stroud. Now, C.J. Stroud, an incredibly talented quarterback who actually won Elite 11 MVP in the same year where there was Bryce Young. You know, C.J. Stroud played in California as well, regarded as a 5-star prospect, in what was, in my opinion, one of the better quarterback classes of recent memory that gave us the likes of a C.J. Stroud, a DJ Uiagalelei, and a Bryce Young. You can't really argue with that. The thing is right now is that not only does Ohio State have C.J. Stroud, they have incredible depth behind C.J. Stroud. And, oh yeah, by the way, they have 5-star quarterback number 23 in the nation, Kyle McCord, coming in with the class of 2021. As I said earlier, Quinn Ewers was committed to the University of Texas and decommitted under the Tom Herman regime. Now, I have been adamant on this channel, and I have been very hard on Texas in the past, but I have been very forthright in my excitement about the Steve Sarkeesian hire, the direction I believe he will take the program. I've made film studies on Steve Sarkeesian, put them out, highlighting some of the things to be so excited about and the creativity in his play calling. Now, if you didn't see those, I'll give you a quick synopsis. Sark believes in the simplicity is the key to brilliance mantra. He's going to run something that's going to look very complex until you really start breaking it down, and its genius is in its simplicity and in its effectiveness, and it really is a work of art watching Sark call the plays. And I bring all this up because as good as Ryan Day is, as good as Ohio State is, as an offensive player right now, and specifically as a quarterback, Steve Sarkeesian is one of the most intriguing draws in the nation. Just look at it like this. You have Tua Tagovailoa, who goes into the first round, who is an all-world talent in college. You back that up next year with a Mac Jones who only goes out there and puts up better numbers than Tua did and puts up numbers that rivaled Joe Burrow. Mac Jones, who was Tua's backup for years. So what you have when you look at Steve Sarkeesian is a guy that has had success with every quarterback he's had at the University of Alabama, and we can talk about the fact that the University of Alabama, maybe those guys were independently talented outside of Sark, and they were, no doubt, but it also helps when you have genius scheme, and we can have that conversation about, oh, well, Alabama was incredibly loaded with all those playmakers, and they were, but those Alabama teams were also incredibly loaded years ago. Now, I get it, offense has changed, the schemes have changed, and as by extension, the quarterback will account for more percentage of an offense. It's only natural in the natural progression of football. The difference is the way Steve Sarkisian schemes for people. This year, what Steve Sarkeesian did with Mac Jones has got to be one of the most intriguing draws for any quarterback in the nation, let alone a guy who has more hype coming into his senior season than maybe even a Trevor Lawrence. If you're that talented, and you were once committed to the University of Texas, and then the University of Texas gets one of the better recruiting staffs in the nation with a Kyle Flood, a Jeff Banks, a Steve Sarkisian at the helm, my goodness. You can imagine that that is a hard offer to say no to when you were previously committed to go there. So obviously there is an interest in the University of Texas. Now, all this being said, Texas has to beat Ohio State. That is no easy task. That is just like trying to flip a guy from Alabama. Has it been done? Sure. Is it easy? No. It's much more likely that Nick Saban or Ryan Day is going to come and steal your candy, and that you are not going to get to take any of theirs because they don't like that. At the end of the day, Texas has to compete with Ohio State for Quinn Ewers, but they do have some things going for them. One, the interest has already been there. I talked about that. He was committed to Texas, and Steve Sarkisian is as interesting as an offensive offer as there is in college football right now, particularly at the quarterback position, when you see the way that he was able to work with Mac Jones and the success he was able to have with Mac Jones and the schematics of it. You pair that with a guy who put together one of the greatest the greatest offensive line recruiting class of all time in Kyle Flood, and you can see where there is excitement. You already have guys like Winfield out of Lewisville, Texas, and Jaden Blue committing to the University of Texas, adding in some very exciting talent, and I think that the Sark staff will be pushing on a daily for the Quinn Ewers flip. Do I think it's likely? Maybe. Do I think it's probable? Maybe not. And what do I mean when I say that? Would I be surprised if he flipped? No, Ohio State fans, only for the simple fact of you have a true embarrassment of riches right now. And I think what we have to understand is, even though I think CJ Stroud will probably take his sophomore season this year, ball out, junior season, and then go to the league, there is a possibility that CJ Stroud redshirts from last year and still has 4 years of eligibility next year. So next year, he could be deemed a freshman because of the eligibility exemptions they've put in place due to COVID. So not only do you have him, you have backups behind him, but then you get another 5-star in Kyle McCord. And yes, I believe that Quinn Ewers on paper and on a high school level is just as talented, if not more talented than all of them, but it's the argument of there is an easier time getting to playing time at the University of Texas, and it's not like it's one of those where we talked about the other day with the Alabama League recruiting call of, you can come play for us because we're not as good. Sure, Texas isn't as good as Ohio State, but what Texas can say is, but we have a play caller and an offensive mind that is good, as good or better than anybody else in the nation. And that's also true. And that alone is going to be a tough sell because we know what Sark's going to bring to the table, and that's going to be offensive prowess. So do I believe that Quinn Ewers will be committed to the University of Texas when it is all said and done? I think it's a possibility. I think it's more likely that he sticks with Ohio State, but nobody should or will be surprised if he flips. But like I said at the beginning, I want to hear from y'all. This is one of the most electrifying players to come out in a long time, one of the most just touted recruits of recent memory, and deservedly so. Look, I've gotten to see the kid play just live multiple times, and the talent is there. A really impressive kid, and he's only going to get better. So I want to hear from y'all. Do you think he sticks to his commitment for Ohio State? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Guys, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and like the video. That's it. See ya.